Good morning, everyone, and good morning to those of you joining us online. Welcome to our Sunday morning class with Guy Finley. My name is John. If you're new joining us online, well, we're glad that you're here. It's Sunday, February 4th, and whether you're watching us live or joining us at some other time, we are very glad you're here for our class. Our format for our class is that in a moment, Guy will give about a 60-minute talk on the topic that you see below the screen, and after he's finished, we'll take a short break of about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back for an open discussion in which the students here in the classroom and those of you online can ask questions, can share comments and reactions to the material Guy presented, or ask him anything related to your inner life. And together, your questions, your comments, your feedback helps all of us learn something a little bit deeper and richer. And so we invite you to participate, and we hope you can stay for our entire session, which will last about an hour and a half. To the students in the room, if you have a cell phone, please just check to make sure you've turned it off. And for those of you online, again, please participate. And if you're having any technical issues, do drop a line to us in the comment area on the forum that you're on, or you can send an email to support@guyfinley.org, and we'll try to get you straightened out. All right. Here is this morning's topic and the key lesson, the first key lesson. A simple prayer to soften the heart of whosoever remembers the need to speak it. Here's the first key lesson. If you are among the chosen few, the Almighty will prove your pride to be pointless. But if you're among the truly fortunate ones who choose to be chosen, you will be forever thankful to the divine for showing you the truth of this unthinkable revelation.
Good morning, everyone. Sometimes when I write key lessons, I think, oh boy, they're really going to like this one. This wouldn't have been one that I would have selected for you to like. Because never is anything more misplaced in this life or in a human being than the idea of pride. So if you're already irritated with me, I don't mind if you leave. This talk is not for men and women who want to feel good about themselves or believe that there's something waiting for them in some moment to come where everything is going to be magical and life will at last give you everything you want. No such moment is coming, because you're looking in the wrong life for the wrong thing. The second key lesson will prove the first one, and there's a third that I'll get to before the talk is over. Bring up the second key lesson, please. Humility is not the opposite of strength, it is the fulfillment of it. Humility is not the opposite of strength, it is the fulfillment of it. It is a phenomena that is almost beyond description, that we are placed in a world where a consciousness has become so thoroughly conditioned with false ideas, beliefs, images, that we believe without taking any time at all that we're here to have everybody see us just the way we imagine ourselves to be. And worse, that we spend our entire life, you spend your entire life, and I mean that quite literally. I know there's some of you that do some work and try, but I tell you it's not enough. It's not even near enough. And I don't say this to you to be negative I say it as an encouragement, and I intend to show you what I'm talking about. I tell you the following for only one reason. Actually, I think I'll set the stage before I tell you. There was a great film. Take a deep breath. I'm backing up a little bit, okay? Nothing's happened yet. God. You know, your tension and resistance speaks volumes. You don't even know that something in you leaps up to protect you from anything seen as an assault to your precious ideas and images of yourself. Just right there, just like that. There was a great film called Saving Private Ryan with Tom Hanks and Matt Damon, I believe it was. If you never saw it, I wouldn't particularly recommend it except for the last few minutes of the film, where they're trying to save Private Ryan, the last of a family of 4 brothers, and all of the others have been killed in World War II. And Tom Hanks, a lieutenant, ex-school teacher or professor in college, sent to rescue, on a battlefield. The insanity of war. The insanity of war. I'm going to explain to you war today, by the way. Why it goes on and on and on and on. He's sent to save this one young man. And at the end, they're trying to protect this bridge and all the rest of that. And lo and behold, Tom Hanks takes a bullet trying to save Private Ryan. And he's laying there on the other side of the bridge, dying. Struck me then, and it strikes me all the time. It strikes me all the time. He's laying there dying, and he takes Matt Damon's hand and he puts it on his chest. On Tom Hanks he says, "Don't waste this. Don't waste this." What he was saying in the terms of the world is, do something right with your life. Be something right with your life. That was the essence of it. And it's a marvelous message, because what he's indicating is that there's this relationship between things that come and go. And that just because something is going doesn't mean that something hasn't come that is equally as rich and full as whatever it is that seems to have been lost. And the reason I tell you this is because my older brother Greg died 3 days ago. In his sleep. It was a peaceful passing. And the family looks to me, to some extent, to help them understand, if they can, so that it isn't something that's just pure grief. And his wife, Patty, bless her heart, both my brother and Patty they would tune on Facebook or one of these streaming things. And what I'm conveying to them is, don't waste this. If my brother dies and all you do is fall into some deep grief and hate yourself and judge yourself for the thoughts you had prior to his passing, because you know what they are and you know what you're like, what a waste that would be if you don't make the most of this death to give yourself a new life. Because there is no life without death, and there is no death that isn't the fulfillment of life. They are a singularity. But we don't understand that, and that's what I want to look at with you today. When my brother died, and I got that phone call, I remember a great gulf of a certain type came over me. If you ever lost somebody, you would recognize that immediately. You would know that sudden sense of vacancy. And I remember in that moment of that vacancy, a very strong feeling came over me. It was one of a host of impressions. But one of them being, I must do what I can in this life to help my brother, as I did during my life to help my brother. And then with that particular thought came a host of different strong impressions, now I'm going to double down and I'm going to this and I'm going to that. And he's better off. He didn't want his life anyway. He was in so much pain all the time psychologically. On and on all this went. And I remember being very dedicated to this idea that his life should not have been wasted. As he himself, had he been on a deathbed, he passed in his sleep. Do you know what happens to men and women who die but don't die in their sleep or by some tragic accident? I can tell you what happens because I've been with my mother and my father and everyone else. They regret that they didn't use the time they had. They regret they didn't use the time they had. And how many times have you had moments where, because of someone passing or a near-death threat to yourself or whatever it is, you think to yourself, oh God, I'm really going to double down now and make a difference in my life. Yes or no? And then what in the name of God happens? Just like it happened to him. He had like multiple he loved McDonald's. McDonald's killed him. Crap food. And then what happens? Oh my God, I have to really change. Now, I'm bringing you in and out of my own observation. I never speak personally, but here I believe it can help you. And I don't know when it was, about 3 minutes later, I had completely forgotten that my brother died. I was in the kitchen getting coffee. 1 minute before that, like what? And then the minute that I remembered that he died, then all of the old I came flooding in. But not just that I. Jesus, Guy, what's wrong with you? How could you forget your brother just died? What kind of person are you? What kind of person are you that ever thought you'd be better off if your brother wasn't sitting there yelling at you or doing whatever it is that brothers and sisters do? So that you live with a resentment and all of a sudden they die and I'm so sorry I lived like that. I never told them I love them. You can fill in all the blanks, and don't you dare fall into judging yourself during this talk. This has nothing to do with judgment. One of the things I want to tell you, do you know why you judge others? You judge others for their weakness because you believe in the judgment of their weakness. It proves that you have the strength they don't. So you never have to see that your strength and weakness vacillates like some wind in a tree that comes up and disappears and leaves everything hanging there, and then it comes again. I'm strong, I'm a terrible person, I'm the greatest, I'm the worst. And on it goes all the time. But the point is, and I've already taken too much time introducing this material, is there not in those moments an awareness of a real need that you have beyond what amounts to be your ability to answer it? Isn't there a sense of helplessness in those moments? And even that gets stolen. Even that gets stolen. Like some thief in the night. Only it's not a thief in the night. It's a consciousness in the darkness of itself that has no separate self, no true identity apart from whatever the momentary condition is that triggers that specific character. And when that character appears, I appear with it. And then I'm someone who's going to do this and get that and make this happen. I'll be different. I'll really bear down now and work. Because after all, my brother was only a year and 9 months older than I am. Holy cow. But I remember the same thing when my mother died and when my father died. When my friends died as I was growing up because of drugs and alcohol or other insane acts of an unconscious nature set against itself. And what changed? I'm asking you to look at this with me. It isn't an affront. It isn't an accusation. I'm saying, can I actually look and see what has changed? Because the problem is that when I think to myself, what has changed, I'm in an eye that's examining myself and believe that because I can examine myself, I've changed. But if I've changed, I don't need to examine myself in order to prove that I changed. I am the difference. And it requires no thought. My nature has changed. And that's the purpose of all true spiritual teachings. Is to bring about in a human being the recognition that all the time things happen. And do you not, in those moments when I'm into this, or I should be like that, or I'm a terrible, do you not think that you see perfectly straight in moments like that? Yes or no? Yes. I'm sitting there helpless, and then that's it. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to stop saying yes when I should say no. I'm going to stop eating the, I'm going to. And then for a day, maybe. Not even a day. That's what I'm working at. It doesn't last any longer than the condition that triggered that character when another condition in time acts on that consciousness and produces another I that has no awareness whatsoever of any of the other I, let alone what had formulated its momentary appearance. That's how you could forget that your brother died. Because you're just identified with your whipped cream or whatever it is that you're identified with. So we think we see straight, don't we? And when we think we see straight, aren't we on the straight and narrow? I want to throw this in for those of you that like biblical stuff. What is that? The straight is the gate and narrow the way. There's a biblical passage. Did you know what the straight is? Do you know what that meant? Straight is the way. We think it means disciplined and all the rest of that. It had nothing to do with it. On the eastern side of Jerusalem was the straight gate, and it was called the gate of mercy. And only certain types where it came through that straight gate. It was very narrow into Jerusalem. Everybody else came through the wide gate, which was all the traders and salespeople, tax, all came through the wide gate. So the straight gate is the gate of mercy. And what Christ was alluding to is that there's a relationship between the capacity for a man or a woman to actually change. And I'll get to this. Between the understanding of the need for mercy. And you and I have no need for mercy at all, other than when we want mercy to get rid of the pain, we blame on the condition that brought up that particular sense of self. Yes or no, out loud. Yes. So I think I can see straight, and I make my plans. The problem is the plans vacillate, don't they? Back and forth. I make a plan, and then another I comes up. Yeah, but. I'm in a yeah, but. Like an Abbott and Costello routine. But if I can see straight in those moments, why do I always come back to the same place? And the real problem is that I don't actually know I come back to the same place until I've returned to the same place 10,000 times. And then it starts to dawn on me, by some strange twist that I didn't even consider, maybe reincarnation has nothing whatsoever to do with taking on some other body. Maybe reincarnation is that this consciousness in its unconscious act is forever reincarnating itself by coming up with yet another identity that will save it from seeing what it was the moment before, because it can't bear to see anything about itself that doesn't confirm itself as it's imagined to be. Yes or no? Yes. And so what happens? I never see I'm helpless. You never see you're helpless. And when in those rare moments when you do see that you're helpless, you know what happens? In comes a very helpful eye. Doesn't it? Well, yeah, you're right. Look at you. You're lost. This is emptiness. This is oh my God, oh my God. Wait. Let's do this. Let's go there. Let's become, instead of a Christian, let's become a Jew. And if not a Jew, let's become a Muslim. And if not a Muslim, let's forget religion because it doesn't work. Let's go travel someplace and eat lots of good food. You fill in the blanks. You can't avoid it if you're lucky. That's why the key lesson said, if you're among the chosen few, the divine will prove your pride to be pointless. Imagine being, I remember many years ago, hello my friend, I hope you're watching. I told a good friend of mine, a celebrity, I call him a comic book character. Oh, he got so mad at me. He said, you're like a comic book character. It depends what page you're on. Of course, that was the kettle calling the pot black in those days, but who knows that when you're so busy making astute observations about others? Never dawns on us that we're helpless. And because it never dawns on us that we're helpless, if you've understood that much, have you understood some of this? Then it never dawns on me if I'm actually helpless and I can't change this. I need mercy. I don't want mercy because it's the Christian or the Jew, or because it's the Baha'i, because it's something that's, kumbaya. Mercy. When people ask God for mercy, they're asking God to change the conditions that have produced the conflict in their life. They're not saying, unless it's a very rare human being, they're not saying, please, something essential needs to change. But even when we say something essential needs to change, no more does the condition that produced the essential need for mercy change than the consciousness changes, and there's no more awareness of being helpless at all. I'm right back being the same person I was, pushy, proud, punching through things, getting what I want, making sure people understand they mustn't get in my way. And then another shock comes. And each time, though we don't hear it, but one day you will, inwardly something saying, don't waste this. Don't waste this. You can use this if you understand it. And that's what true spiritual teachings have always been about. Now, I knew that when I started to prep these notes to talk to you, that there was two things I wanted to make very clear. First, I'm not pontificating, I'm not suggesting, I'm not telling you anything. I'm saying, can you see what I see? Because if you can see what I see, that means that our consciousness understands something, not just individually, but already in place within us, and it serves a purpose if we can ever get to the point where we actually recognize, by the name of sweet God, how do I become a person who one moment is like this and the next moment is like that? Wishing, and look, I don't want to push too many buttons, because if I get you too far over on one side, I'll lose you altogether. You know why people regret when someone dies that they loved? Because there were times when they wished they would have died, or they wished that they weren't in their life. And all the things that go with you, that when somebody passes, there you are, and all you know to do is to what? is to become someone who now doesn't want to be what you were before. And then you say, well, I won't be that way again, but in a heartbeat, you become exactly the same person and never see the shift take place. Why don't we see the shift take place? Do you understand? This is what I want to talk to you about. I had Wayne get this branch for me from outside just before I talked. Now, I don't know how much you can see of it, but let me set the stage for what I'm going to show you. St. Paul said, we struggle not with flesh and blood, but with powers and principalities. Now, I've covered this a little before, but I'm going to do it more deeply. He's saying your struggle isn't with the fact that you have desires and that you flip eyes. The problem has nothing to do with the flesh or the passions of the blood. That's not what you struggle with. What you struggle with, he called powers and principalities, are that we are governed, that we as human beings without having any knowledge at all are governed by forces that we are completely in the dark about, 100% in the dark. And yet, not because they're hidden, but because nothing in us wants to understand our relationship to these forces, because every time they reveal themselves acting on us, we can explain to ourselves why I'm this person today and that person tomorrow. So I always have a reason why I am the way I am. Do you not? Isn't that the main pastime of your thinking, as we've been talking about for the last week? Constantly juggling thought to try to get everything to line up so it'll reconcile with whatever you have realized as yourself. And it's okay, I don't like myself very much, but I'll be better. I'm going to get past that point. But I never do. Why? This branch represents, in every meaning of the word, how creation takes place. And how creation takes place is that a great will, an activity, a timeless force, the divine, call it what you will, that is responsible for all of the energy. Take the sun as an example of the Son and of the Father. Here, all of that energy comes in, and when it comes in on a straight line. But when it comes into what it has created, this is sunlight. But when it comes in, it initiates in that creature a movement. That's what you're looking at. Why does every branch you will ever look at go like that? And it does. You will never find nature never makes a straight line. Unless human beings are in there messing with stuff, and then it's not. Why does every branch, if you can see it, why does everything go like this? And in some ways it's so beautiful. I was thinking, and one day you'll see some. Here's a tree with all of these branches. Why are they all like that? Well, because for one thing, when the energy comes into each cell, it places in that cell this straightforward movement. But the movement to go straight and narrow is the gate. The movement to go straight is offset by other conditions, other forces that deflect that force so it can't go straight. A tree looks like it does because you're looking at an infinite act of balance. It's extraordinary to see no branch over here moves this way that some other branch isn't moved that way because it's connected to a greater whole. So that every movement that comes into the branch creates a corresponding deflection in it, and that deflection becomes the source of the next deflection, and it's all weighed together in a singularity called the tree that has all these branches. Are you able to follow that at all? So it means that every moment of creation is being acted on by something that deflects it. So no, creation doesn't move in a straight line, by the way. It's quite circular because when this takes place, eventually it will turn back on itself. Now, If you can see that in a branch, can you? What about me? I have this sudden impulse to be a better man, to not lie, to not cheat, to not be greedy, to not hate, to not be afraid, to put others before I have a sudden impulse based on always a shock. You never have an impulse to be a better human being until something has broken your life apart. And then there's the impulse. And the impulse to be one man becomes another man. And then that man has another impulse, and that becomes another man. That's called legion. The endless division of an unconscious nature that has no idea how its divisive activity produces the idea of the divine, so that in its imagination it can save itself from what it does to itself and the world that it walks through. Are you seeing? Now, this is where it becomes critical that I help you understand something. Can we bring up the third key lesson, please? And then I'm going to explain it. I know some of you, you think it's a tongue twister. It's not. There's something quite beautiful and profound in this if you can see it. Read it with me. What does it say? It takes... Oh, great. Nice job. It's like remedial class somewhere in Hong Kong. It takes 2 to get tangled up in any form of conflict, but 3 to undo it. What is conflict? I want and I don't want. And the I that wants forgets pretty quick that it wanted that, because along comes what it doesn't want. I meet you and you have your expectations of me, and I don't want to meet them up. So wherever you have 2, you have conflict. Where you have the opposites, you have conflict. Do you understand that? And we, without knowing it, oppose life. But we don't know we oppose life, because when we're busy not wanting what life has given us, we're busy being identified with what we want God to give us so that we can have a life we want. And then we get the life we want and we forget entirely that we got it, because then something says it's not good enough and it has to be something else. Is that not the branch going through this endless permeation that's filled with pain because it's conflicted, isn't it? And at some point, which is why the only reason that there has ever been any awakened, illumined saint, sage, wise man, woman, whatever you want, the only reason for their existence is so that they can bring into the world what they have been given to see, and that is that as a man or a woman who continues to believe that the particular I at the moment has the power to change I, it isn't until all of that is in the trash can that a person begins to recognize that of myself, I cannot change myself. Absolutely cannot change myself. I can change my relationships, and I will have the experience for as long as that lasts of being someone that's changed something. I can get a new job. I can go visit someplace. I can do 1,000 different things. I can change my sex. And it won't change anything. What it'll do is drive the disparity even deeper, so that I'll become increasingly desperate. And listen to this. Increasingly desperate to explain why it is that everything I've explained to myself has changed nothing. We live on a planet that is now the tree of war. And you know why it's the tree of war? Because every last one of these things that's going to bring peace or change someone's attitude or assertion in some other part of the world, and we're not alone, all the people are like this, simply produces the recognition that didn't change anything. Look, they didn't do what they're supposed to do. Oh my God, Well, I guess I'm going to have to ramp it up a little bit. And then they say, well, I have to ramp it up a little bit. And then you get nothing but a tree that is corrupted and broken and growing in on itself. And then you get the collapse of civilization, which always takes place, incidentally. And I'm describing to you why it takes place, because this consciousness in its corrupted state cannot see that it needs to change, and that it cannot change itself with what it gives itself to be changed by. If I was honest, and that's the other thing. How many of you consider yourself to be a fairly honest person? Come on, get your hand up. Come on. Well, honestly, am I less selfish than I was? Honestly, am I more forthcoming in my willingness to smile and help people along? Or am I still at the whim of any particular condition that creates and triggers in me some response, some memory, and then I become that identity, and then I live out that identity until by deflection it runs into something, and then I forget. I even forget what it was that I was. It isn't just old age. That's what they tell you. You know, the older you get, you go to do something, you forget why you went there. I was doing that when I was 19. I just become another I. I just become another person. And then the person I become, who at one point realizes that he's not the one who went to do what he said he was going to do or become what he said he was going to become, then it turns on itself and it becomes that I. What are we leading to here? What do you think? There are so many ways in which we fail to see how this, what was that movie called, with the pods where people went to sleep? The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. The self-snatcher. Now, why do you think that goes on? Can we agree so far? We're all right? Why do you think that goes on? I'm going to help you see it. For one thing, I am ashamed to admit that these things are in me. I certainly don't want you to know. Do you want to make a list of all the things that you know are corrupting you and pass it out? I don't want anybody to know anything about my secret life. And every human being has a secret life. Thoreau called it a secret life of despair. And now am I ashamed to admit those things, but I'm unable to be anything other than someone who acts out the opposite of what I don't want to be. And the upshot of all this is another topic, but it's related directly. I don't want to ask for help. I'll ask, please God, change this. Please God, change that. Please put another political party, put another climate control, put another law on the books. Please change the city. Please change everything. change everything except for the one thing that is responsible for the incessant need to change everything, which is this consciousness, which, to make the point, what needs to change is my heart. There's a passage in Ezekiel. I'm going to read it to you, and then we'll get on with this talk. He says, "A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments and do them. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you." My heart has to change, and I can't change it. My heart has to change, and I can't change it. Now what? But you have to get to the point where you actually understand your heart needs to change, because you don't know that your heart has the treasure in it that it values above all else, and that where your treasure is, there will your heart also be. My treasure is in whatever particular I, whatever identity momentarily steps up to promise to release me from the pain or the problem I've got by getting someone or something else to be other than they are, so that I can get on and have the life that I'm meant to have. So that part of my heart, the way it is now, is that I'm owed. Part of my heart, the way it is now, is filled with judgment, isn't it? Do you remember the last class? I believe it was the last class, maybe, and yesterday was Insight Timer. Yeah. I said that we have evidence of the fact that there is no way that this limited nature of thought is ever going to be able to realize a relationship with what is holy. And yet, there is something within us that knows that limitation. Which means even though I am constrained presently as I am, this is the point, you see, all I am now is someone who is remanded over virtually instantly to whatever character steps up to replace the unwanted character in the unwanted experience of that moment. It's just like that. Just like that impulse comes in, the branch goes like this, and for as long as it lives, and then it goes like that. And I have no idea that that's taking place. Why? Because there's no one there that's constant. There's no one who sees. There's someone who is given something to see what they need to be to escape who they were or who they want to become, and then never sees that I morph into that I and that I into another I endlessly. A change of heart means I don't have to go into thought when a moment comes when my brother dies. I don't have to allow memory, which is phenomenal. I loved my brother dearly. Anybody who knew me and my brother understood that. But my mind would say, well, why aren't you full of grief? And I'm not full of grief because my heart has changed to the extent that I understand his death is not the end of something. It's just the beginning of another relationship. And it's not consolation. A change of heart is not a heart that consoles itself with spiritual crud. A heart that's changed doesn't need to memorialize, doesn't need to drag up the past in order to prove something in the present moment. A heart that's changed is a heart that is changing every moment, because every moment it is participating not just in the conflict between active and passive, but it has brought in the third. That's why that key lesson, it takes two to get tangled up in any form of conflict, but three to undo it. Because wherever two or more of you are gathered in my name, there shall I be. There is that light that reveals. Now I've got to get to this last part. Did you know one of the ancient meanings of the word mercy? It's fascinating. You ready? To pay the cost. You want mercy, don't you? Yes or no? But will you pay the cost? And what is the cost of that kind of mercy? What is the cost of it? Seeing myself as I am while I'm being it. And not taking a position outside in conflict with what I see, but allowing what I see and the nature that is seeing it to do what only it can do, which is to change the heart in which all of that is upwelling. So let's make a little shiftaroo. Get to an exercise portion, if you will. What would it, and here's the difficulty, and this is one of the reasons that some of these talks I have to tread ever so lightly. Because the last thing I want you to do is start thinking to yourself, oh, I need to change a heart, I need to change a heart. How many times have you been dropped psychologically to your knees and felt in that split second, could have been anything, could be something so small, and it usually is, I might add. That's how fragile this psyche is. How many times have you felt helpless? Can you count them? Can you? Yes or no? No. Where did it go? Where did it go? You're driving in your car and you can see somebody coming up behind you fast, and maybe you've been working, you watch, you go, you know what, I'm not gonna mess with this. I'm just gonna get out of this lane, and I'm gonna go over here, and I'm not gonna just let this all go by because I'm kumbaya, brother, kumbaya. And then that person does what they do. And the you that said kumbaya, brother, is now kill your brother as quickly as you can. And then the judgment of yourself for being someone who couldn't be kumbaya. Yes or no? Yes. And underneath all of that, the abject helplessness of seeing that I had this picture in my mind. Zoos, I don't think much about zoos. I don't care for them. I haven't been to one in 1,000 years. Maybe they're better, but still animals caged up doesn't do much for me. Actually, I don't like it at all. But imagine for a second, you go to a zoo, and what do? You walk around and you see the various things, or you get in a tram of some kind, and right? So imagine for a split second, I was going to do this on a Wednesday night, and imagine that you go to the zoo, but you sit down on a bench someplace and the whole zoo rotates around you. That's a description of humanity. Because I look at the lion, oh, the lion, I love lion. Oh, I hate chimpanzees. Oh, I love the Wolverine. Oh, look, the devil thing. What is that devil thing? Yeah, the Tasmanian devil. And everything I see, I become. There's a zoo going around. And I don't know. I was a lion a moment ago. Now I'm a chimp. Now I'm a hyena. Now I'm a pig. I never even know it. Because I become fully identified with whatever the condition is that impresses itself on this consciousness. It brings up in itself some corresponding character that when the character comes up and I identify with it, that's all there is for me. But then the zoo moves, doesn't it? So what I'm saying is, what if I see I'm helpless? When was the last time, honest to God, when apart from the split second where OMG took place and that helpless, when was the last time that you remained aware of the fact that you have been helping yourself out of helplessness for 1,000,000 years and you're still as helpless as you were to stop shifting eyes? Do you understand the question? What would that do to me? I'll tell you what it will do. That's why I said it's a little tread lightly. When was the last time that you sat anywhere, 5 minutes in the morning, whatever, and just instead of being caught up in what your mind has designed in order to deliver you from places where you feel threatened or helpless, or what if you just sat there and allowed yourself to be as helpless as you actually are? Do you know how distasteful this is to most human beings, what I'm describing? Because here, I'll get it. Well, what will happen to me? What will happen to me if I actually am aware of my helplessness and don't do something to fix it? Now, you have to understand, and I can't go into it, there are relationships in this world. We have physical responsibilities, families, all the rest of that. We must take care of ourselves. Put our faith in Allah, but tie up the camel. All that nonsense. But you tell me, what has that got to do, my practical life, with the fact that this persona changes at the drop of a hat and I'm helpless to cease, to stop being identified with whatever it is that comes up inside of me? That's what I'm saying to you. Because as you actually grow to understand that, a new prayer will form itself in your life. Please change my heart. You won't have to think it. You won't have to wait for it to be called up by some condition. You'll ask to have your heart changed because you understand without the third, without that force, without that divine light, without that, you're done. And to tie the beginning of the talk with the end, if I can't use those moments, if I can simply not waste that moment. And in the grand scheme of things, as difficult as it is to understand, you did get this idea of how a tree, what you see is a tree going through a ceaseless, infinite balancing and reconciling its own form. You can see that, right? That's what we are. That's what you are, you and I, one tiny little branch on this great vine. And instead of being a participant in bringing back into the vine, bringing into this life what everybody requires, we're caught up all the time trying to make sure that our little part of the branch stays balanced. Please change my heart. Please don't let me forget this wish. Please help me to stay awake at all times, that I might remember and gather myself in that light. This isn't religious. Please don't let me go to sleep. When was the last time with any earnesty that was in place, so that when you get up in the morning, that's your prayer? Please change my heart. Because I know, as sure as sure, I'm going to sit down, I'll open my email, I'll start going through texts, and I'll be this, I'll be that, I'll have an enemy. It takes 2 to create a tangle, 3 to get it undone. No more tangles, no more useless struggle. How does it stop being useless struggle? How does it stop? I don't waste the moment where I see the truth of myself. I don't pretend. I don't hate myself. I don't hate you. I don't judge. I sit and I watch everything as purely as I can. Because, and this is the last part of that key lesson from the beginning of the class, humility is not the opposite of strength, it is the fulfillment of it. Can you begin to see now? Humility is not the opposite of strength, it is the fulfillment of it. And the fulfillment of humility is God's mercy. Is that which we have to do our part so that we can be brought into our part in that broader life. Let's take a break, come back and have our dialogue.
discussion with Guy, a chance for you to ask questions, make comments about the material he presented this morning, which was a very clear and very strong talk. So I look forward to our discussion with him. But before we move to that, let me just share two quick announcements with you. One, if you're new, just a review of what our weekly schedule of classes is with Guy. Sunday mornings is the start of a busy week and plenty of opportunities for you to join us and learn with us. Our next class for everyone is Wednesday night is our Discovery Wednesday class at 6 p.m. with Guy, so hope you can join us for that. And then on Friday nights at 7 p.m. we have a student-led class, and that class will be discussing this talk, the one that Guy just presented. So it's a great opportunity to join us to work on and review the ideas that Guy presented, and then come online and talk with other students about that talk and see if we can't help each other understand it a little bit better. And then the weekends always have an opportunity again with Guy, and that is Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Guy speaks on insighttimer.com/live. It is a live class just like these are, and another opportunity for you to go a little deeper in your inner work. So hope you can join us as often as you can. And the second reminder is the new year, and we invite you to, in a new way perhaps, continue to help us spread these ideas around the world. Our Life of Learning Foundation is a nonprofit organization with a mission for over 30 years of trying to share these ideas with all of those who might benefit from them and are interested in them as well. So we thank you for your support throughout the years, and we invite you to join us again in this new year in continuing to support these ideas. You can go to our website at guyfinley.org/donate, and any help that you provide is greatly appreciated, and also in the United States, tax deductible. So thank you again, and let's continue this work together. All right, let's go back to the main room. We'll check in with Guy and see if he is ready to begin the discussion yet, or if he has anything else he wants to say.
Ready when you are, John. Oops. We have a volunteer walking up to the microphone. Kick things off. Be sure and introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, my name is Paul. And Guy, I think the first thing I want to say is just thank you for not wasting this, for sharing this experience this morning.
You're welcome, Paul.
This was very helpful today because really over the past week or so, it's been hitting me. The realization has been becoming more and more clear that my life is being wasted. And each time that comes up, I feel my helplessness in the face of that realization get stolen. And it's stolen by that nature, Paul, telling me, well, you've got all this to do. It's because there's all this work to do, all these things to take care of, everything to figure out. You've got to have an answer for everyone, for everything, and figure it all out beforehand. And there's too much to do. If it weren't for this work, I wouldn't know that that's not the truth.
Even though there may be many things to get done.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And then a second part of that is, if it weren't for this work, I wouldn't know that wasting this life has nothing to do with making something of myself in this world, becoming someone, taking something from this world. Wasting this life is not using every moment that I can remember to be free of that nature.
Yes.
That's all.
That's all we got out here,
All right.
John.
All right, Guy. Well, I have some stuff in here. We'll go to Gloria in the queue, and then I have several written questions. But first to Gloria. Good morning, Gloria. You're unmuted.
Good morning, Guy. I just want to give my deepest sympathy to you and your family for the loss of your brother. I know it's not an easy passing, but our love and our thoughts and our hearts are with you. And I just want to say that this work opens up your heart, and it takes that hardness off around it. And it's not trusting in yourself and your thoughts, but it's listening to where your heart is directing you to go. That is the work I could see, I could feel that what I do is not right, but what I need to see is what is being shown to me.
Yes. You know, there's a passage that I think the sheep know the voice of the shepherd, something along those lines. And what it's referring to is that we must learn to really listen inwardly, not just to the thoughts, but everything that is moving into and through us, so that in our attentiveness to that voice, to those thoughts, to those feelings, we bring those into this light, into the third, if you will, like the old farmers used to candle an egg by holding it up to a candle. They would actually hold the egg up to a candle. We have a corresponding capacity that can tell whether or not there's something true or not true in everything that is whispered to us, everything that comes into us. And in that's where we have to go to work, because as Paul was saying, what's going to happen? It's always telling me I'm under dire threat circumstances and all the rest of that. And it just loves to talk like that. It does. But you would never believe that you want to feel that way. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't identify with it. You would see this is surreptitious. It's surreptitious. There's a prayer in the Philokalia. Blessed Lord Christ, Son of the living God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Back in the day, it was a bit of a mantra for Western disciples a long time ago. But it has a new meaning when you begin to recognize what the meaning of the word mercy. If you ask for forgiveness, you have to be asking for forgiveness for something, don't you? Don't you? We never ask for forgiveness. We can't even do it with each other. Most difficult words come out of a person's mouth. I'm sorry, I didn't want to be like that. I would wait one more comment because I pick certain things up. You can't be shown the things that you're shown. One day you'll understand that. You can't be shown the things that you're shown without being given that revelation for the purpose that the part of you that is experiencing it can't understand, but yet must stand within it. It is impossible. It's only by this immense trial, and it is a trial of a sort, that a person starts to see the futility of struggling with revelation about themselves. Especially spiritual people. They're like the worst. They are. Because I got so much time invested in being spiritual. I can quote the Bible. I know the Bhagavad Gita backwards and forward. I hung out with Buddha back in the day. Wouldn't it be nice to be a non-assuming human being. Do you understand what I mean by that? A non-assuming human being. We're just the incarnation of assumption. And if you doubt that, just look at the way you look at others when they don't give you what you assume they're meant to give you. Over to you, John.
All right, here, Guy. I'm going to come on and share the first of our written questions. This was left over from Sunday, or from Wednesday, I'm sorry. Today is Sunday. Here's the question.
Very well.
Came in from Shoshana. She said, is to love the attempt to fulfill the purpose of the desire by seeing our reflection of being loving?
Well, you may know what you mean, Shoshana, but I don't. Is to love the attempt to fulfill the purpose of the desire by seeing our reflection of being loving. I don't know what you're saying, but I'll say something about it, Shoshana. Desire is always I-centric. Always. There, you have no desire that doesn't produce an I in you. It is not the I that produces the desire. It is the desire that produces the I. They appear simultaneously. Do you understand that much? Because there was no me thinking I want to get out of here until suddenly I look at the clock and I'm hungry. And desire comes. Let's go. I want to go. Bye. Real love is not I-centric. In many ways, real love is the abnegation of the whole idea of me up as apart from what I love or that loves me. In the truest sense of it, that would be what Christ called agape. There are other forms of love, we know that. But humanity is so fallen. With God as my witness, person walks into a family reunion and they go, I love you, brother, I love you, and then they serve turkey. I love turkey. Exact same I. If I love you, I can't hurt you. You have to do the interior work to understand without taking thought. Some of the things that we discussed today in depth so that they become your trial. See what happens if you sit for a few minutes every day at least, or if you really want to, in quotes, benefit from it, when you get into bed, instead of running over all the things that you didn't do or that you need to do tomorrow or where you should have been like this, instead of sitting there and worshiping yourself on your pillow, see how helpless you are to stop doing that. That'd be worthwhile. Over to you, John, if there's anything left.
You bet, Guy. We have a couple of hands in the queue, so I'll go next to Susan. Hello, Susan. Good morning. You're on.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Hi, Susan.
Awesome. Good morning. Guy, I want to thank you because in my journey, there was always this missing piece that I was struggling with. And when you began to speak and show us that there is a split, false sense of self, arguing with itself,
Yes.
creating thinks it needs, and creating more and more aspects or identities,
Yes.
that we are hidden in seeing what is the voice that is beyond all those other voices speaking.
Yes.
And the guilt and the shame of all the actions of the split mind in arguing with itself. It was an aha. It was a, I don't need to deal with that. I don't need to entertain this dialogue inside my head, nor uphold the image of the identity attached to that right-minded or wrong-minded dialogue.
Yes.
And it's like a switch went off, and the guilt, the shame, the efforting all ceased. And what arose was this beautiful sense of knowing and awareness that I need do nothing but watch the unfolding of my own false self.
Yes.
And not fight it, not have to fix it.
Yes.
And I just wanted to say, changed my life. And I thank you for that key.
I am as grateful to these ideas as you are to me for sharing them with you. These ideas have been around forever. It's just that the language and maybe the willingness to speak them has been missing. But we can benefit from it, and we must continue to do our work. There's no end to it, Susan. No end to it. We'll see you again. On we go, John.
All right, on we'll go. Here is a written question, Guy. It came in earlier this week, and it comes from Jan. She says, I have a question for Guy, which may seem trite, but I can assure you it has ruined many lives. What can help someone whose lifelong thinking has been utterly preoccupied with trying to control their weight in order to be acceptable, and yet who seems just too scared or petrified to drop this hellish obsession?
Is that going to come up? Okay, you did? Hold on, I got to find it. It didn't make it, but it's okay. Yeah, I get the drift. You understand what she's saying? The pain, Jan, apart from whatever physical discomfort there may be connected to being overweight, the pain isn't in the weight. The pain is in a stream of ceaseless judgment of oneself, that one thinks is oneself judging oneself when it's really just this world that doesn't know what to do with anything that it doesn't want. And I can't, there's no way. I can't remove that. There's no thought that can remove it. For that matter, if Christ himself was standing there with you, he couldn't remove that consciousness. We have favorite pains, you know. We just don't think to ourselves that they're favorite pains, but they are. Favorite judgments of ourselves. So rather than try to prescribe some path forward, Jen, I will say this much as a way for you to work at revealing to yourself something about that consciousness. The next time that Jan starts to tear into Jan, deliberately put yourself on the side of neither one, the one who's too heavy and the one who doesn't want to be that way. Don't take either side. And you should be able to see, Jan, the futility of taking a side. I'm the worst person. I shouldn't be this heavy. I can't do anything. I've struggled. People don't know how much pain I've been through trying to lose this weight. Just ask in the moment where the judgment starts, whether you're doing the judging or you're the one being judged, just ask to see in that moment everything that you can see. And you can't be thinking about Jan or thinking about her problem and see Jan. It's impossible. And I'm not being trite. It's not the weight that you want to lose, Jan. It's Jan that you want to lose. The weight of Jan. How many of you know the weight of yourself? Yeah. You can do it, Jan. I'm not saying you can lose weight, but I am saying, by the way, that the more you understand the struggle, the less you'll struggle with it, and the less you struggle with it, the more you'll want to console yourself with the things that you do. On we go, John.
On we go next, Guy, to Hans in the queue. Just raised his hand. Good morning, Hans.
Hi, John. Thanks. Hi, Guy.
Hello, Hans.
You said earlier in the talk you don't know there's something that leaps up in you to defend yourself. And I remember you a while back you were talking about anger, and I said, I don't have anger. And then I started paying attention, and I saw it pop up all the time. And then you said, talk about we have this fear, and I said, I don't have fear. And then last night I woke up and I was scared to death about something that I hadn't accomplished yet, and I saw how my mind constantly brings up things where I scare myself into action, or I guess that part of me must just love that.
Yes, it does.
So is the paying attention to that, I imagine what I understand from what you teach is that our job is just to pay attention to that. And then when we see it, that dissolves it. And then is that process the thing in the Lord's Prayer of give us this day our daily bread?
Well, that's a little bit of a stretch, the daily bread part. But not only is it a physical expression, daily bread, but there is a certain amount of energy that is given to a human being every day. All of the stories, the 4 talents, all of the things in the scripture, all have to do with gathering and not scattering. But you can see, and Jan, if you can tie into what I said to you, that when I see something in myself and then I start to recognize, boy, pretty phenomenal, there's something in me that wants to imagine a time to come, and then the more it imagines it, the more frightened I am. The more frightened I am, the more I try to protect myself, and that's constantly scattering my energies. So the solution is to see that's what I'm doing, and then to bear what I must when that part of me that holds a bludgeoning device over me, to let it go ahead and wail on me and let it do what it's going to do so I can find out whether or not it has any real authority. It is the act of observing oneself changes the nature of what is observed. They are not separate. But by the same token, and I have to put this in, we mustn't think to ourselves, I'm going to work to be present and aware of myself so that I can be free. Because then you are going into every moment with a motive, an ambition. I want more than anything, Hans, to use the moments that are given to me to see what I am given to see. End of story. And then let the rest be done, and it will. And you'll see that. And out of that action comes an intelligence. Out of intelligence, the end of the conflict, and a new order of faith is born. And you'll see that. To you, John.
All right, Guy, here is a written question that came in from Carl today, and I think it really fits with what you just said. Let me share it here. Carl says, Guy, I've been practicing not trying to become anything, but just see myself exactly for what I am in every moment. I have this horrible thought that basically says life isn't worth living until I understand all these truths. It's a terrible thought loop that goes on. I see my ambition, my desires, and then I loathe myself because of them. But at the same time, I want these desires and ambitions. I'm just stuck in this paradox.
Good luck. Oh, heavens. So everybody can see, and none of us would say, well, I'm quite different than Carl. He's kind of describing a universal condition, yes or no? So basically he's saying, I'm a wreck. I'm here, I'm there, I'm over here, then I'm there, I'm everywhere, and I'm nowhere all at once. What do I do? Stop it. Part of, I hope that when I talk to you and work with you and teach, I hope that part of what I'm presenting is the idea and then the need for you to see that how can something that is totally disorganized organize itself? I must return to an organized state. And of myself, I can't organize anything. But that doesn't mean that an organization doesn't exist, does it? You fail to see this. I grew up in ways that have benefited me because of all the things that I got to see growing up. The titans of industry, they're basket cases. They're the CEO of this, and they've got $1 billion that, and they're loved by the world and all the rest of that. And you don't see them. They go home and they can't sleep. And they're trying to figure out what to do with how to protect something that they don't even know how to enjoy. So start with that, Carl. Start with feeling how everything is pulling on you. You can feel that, can't you? He was describing it, wasn't it? But unfortunately, when I feel this pull, then I'm identified with what's pulling on me. And when I feel that, so just be, I hesitate to use this word, center yourself in the awareness of what is pulling you. Center yourself in the awareness of what is pulling you. Don't do anything other than want to be in one place, doing one thing, seeing one thing. That's it. And if you set that aim, you will see, if you understand the need for it, you'll see, I can't do that. Now you've learned something. Now you understand. This helplessness that you feel is looking for a way to you're looking for a way to help your helplessness, and you can't. I've run out of words, thank God. I do. I mean, I always want to encourage you. I always want to encourage you. I have never seen it fail. No matter how poorly I persist with a wish that my heart will change, how poorly I succeed with staying awake, how poorly I deal with whatever the greed, anxiety, or fear, whatever the character is, no matter how poorly I deal with it, if I persist with the wish, I am given insight into the nature that creates those characters. And in that insight, I am liberated to some extent from the subsequent identification with it that always comes like that. So maybe instead of like that, it's a little pause, then it's like that. And then maybe it's a little bit longer of a pause, and then it's like that. And then you begin to realize there can be a distance between this reaction and this identity. Then you're on to something. Over to you, John.
All right, Guy, I have Tony in the queue and then one written question. So
And we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up with that.
All right. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Guy. My condolences. My condolences. And I know your great spirit will lead you to solace. So I was just going to follow up on the last question. And I would say to him, you're in a good place if you're struggling. That's exactly what it is. It's the jumping board, and knowing you're neither side is the landing spot, the sweet spot, and stay with the struggle, because it's beautiful. How many of us don't even realize it? They just either go one side or the other.
Yes.
They choose something, but I think the paradox is a great way to look at this world and go, great, I see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Be in this world and not of it, as you keep telling us.
Yes. Thank you, Tony. And I would just make one quick comment. Maybe that it was something that you can either understand or at least see the possibility of it. What if you don't have to go looking for solace? And what kind of solace do I find if I go looking for it? I tell you that one day you can feel grief deeply. You can love someone and understand that the absence of their body is going to create a certain absence and connecting points in the solar system of your family and all the rest of that. But there's no star that winks out that a new star doesn't wink in. And as long as you're dependent upon any position in the solar system of anything in this world, you are subject to the changes that it creates in you, and then you have to go recreate another solar system for you. You can have another kind of heart. This all would be so wasteful and useless if it weren't possible, if that change of heart weren't possible. You can count on it, but you must do the work to be able to count on it. Last one, John.
All right, Guy, here is the last written question I have. It came in from Edna. She says, my experiences learning with, quote, parts work, unquote, leads me to engage with these learnings in I'll just mother the identity that's identifying and suffering. In particular, the identity that misses someone no longer in my life. I don't see something wrong with this, but I'm aware that it's stepping into another identity, and that seems to be the loop you're guiding us to step out of. Can you speak to this, please?
Now I do. Thanks, Katie. Edna, and I don't know if anybody else understood, but I'll wrap this up. I can't count the number of things in my life that I didn't see any problem with. I saw no problem with being this way towards people. I saw no problem with this belief. I saw no problem with this assertion. I saw no problem with that I should be like this, that you I saw no problem with that. And then one day, I think there's a problem there. And then when you think there's a problem, then you think to yourself, well, I need to make an adaptation on this problem. And then I adapt the problem. But it didn't change the problem maker. And so, Edna, you're in a good place. You are starting to recognize in your words that there is obviously another identity being made out of all these things that I adhere to, and that you're suggesting I step out of the loop, but I don't see anything particularly wrong with this place that I'm in. Far be it from me. I'm not, do you ever, you're in the wrong place. Like Nixon, you're in the wrong place. You're not in the, you just need more understanding. That's all. That's all anybody needs. But not understanding in terms of I'm going to fix my problem with some understanding I'm going to go get from someone or something, but new wisdom born out of seeing the futility of trying to fix myself with the self that is broken. That's what it comes down to. That's what dying to oneself is the gradual revelation that I of myself, Christ himself said it, of myself I can do nothing. And if I actually see that of myself I can do nothing, then when something comes and says, do something, at least I have some understanding to meet the pitchfork with. Then it'll poke me around. I go, all right, cool your jets. I'm learning. And then one day you just stop. Because you understand you can't participate in your own destruction. Goodbye. Yeah, I can close this? Okay. Hello. I always forget that we have this time, another 10, 15 minutes, where men and women who are in the room, if they want to come up and share something, there's a dialogue, and you're welcome to stay for that if there is anyone who wants to come up. Here comes trouble. Come on, John.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike, and I got a story I have to share. And it
Is it going to be a long one?
sort of.
No.
No.
Cut it in half.
Okay. 2001.
Oh, God. Like start in 2023.
I'll get there real quick. I'll fast forward it.
Okay.
2001. Guy opens the foundation, and it's called the what the heck was it? And now I can't remember. But Guy messed me up. Now I can't think of what I was going to say. Okay. So it wasn't the talks in the pines, but it was the first. Huh? It was the grand opening. Thanks, John. The grand opening. So there's a ton of people here, and the foundation just opened up, and we're having the entertainment part. The entertainment, okay? So Greg's here. Your brother Greg's here. Ton of people here. Probably broke the fire code of having too many people in the room. But all the chairs are turned around, face that way, and so Guy says to Greg, would you like to sing a song? So Greg says, yeah, I'll sing a song. So Greg's up there and singing a song and gets done singing a song. Everybody's clapping and cheering and yeah, this is all great. And it's basically the end of the entertainment, and it was Greg's song, Greg singing. So I'm sitting right about where Paul's sitting, facing this way, tons of people. Here comes Greg walking up. High five, everybody, high five. And this is all fun and games. This is great. He takes one look at Mike, one look at me, and here's this look of hatred just looked at me like, who are you? And I'm ready to give him high five. And he just looked at me, and that's the first time I've ever made contact with him. It's the first time I ever met him. So I'm thinking to myself, and he comes up here and stuff and all this stuff, and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, what did I do to this guy? What did I do something wrong or something? And it's the first time I ever made contact with him.
I want you to finish this story because, for one thing, I know my brother didn't do that.
Okay.
That is impossible from my brother.
Okay.
He had too much false personality, even if he didn't like you for some reason, to glare at you the way you've described. So you finish this story and make it quick, because I'm not pleased at all with what you're saying. I just don't see it.
Well, it's just a reaction I seen from him, and I thought it was me that did something to this person. That's all I'm saying. And then as we learn about ourselves and we see things about ourselves, we understand why.
You, over the many years that you've gotten up in here to speak, how many times have you gotten up and realized that you have this relationship with people where you think they're set against you, and then you set yourself against them, and you know that that's not true, and yet you still believe in this story that you're telling me right now? Try to see that it is as fictitious as the enemies that Mike makes. Does Mike make enemies out of people that aren't enemies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, my name is John. I think you can hear me. So 99 and 44 100ths of the time, John sees unwanted moments as punishments. And so last night I got a shock just before dinner, and I saw a flare up internally of like a hissing, like a cat hissing, and my face got super ugly for a half a second. I didn't express this, but I just saw it, and it became more evident that how would I possibly know that this nature is so petty and so touchy and so selfish and so distasteful if it weren't for these conditions that help to reveal it, which they're absolutely necessary.
Exactly.
And so in that light, it became a little bit more clear that this was like life going, wake up, John. He's shaking me awake, wake up. And that's ultimately an act of mercy, not a punishment. So it was just a totally different flip-flop way of seeing it from that shock.
Come on up, Eric. That was the wrong spirit in 100,000 ways. Had nothing to do with what we were talking about. Had nothing to do with the fact that my brother is dead. It's an act of self-love, Mike. Okay. Mike at the center. Don't nod if you don't see it. But I'm telling you. Go ahead, Eric.
Hello, my name is Eric. I actually did want to say something about Greg quickly. Obviously, I didn't know him very well, but I always did appreciate his smiling face, his big smiling face when he came in the room, and his warm greetings of everyone in the room. And along those lines, what Guy's going through reminded me of Shakespeare. And he said, everything reminds me of Shakespeare.
And I love that about you.
I mean, these are beautiful words, beautiful idea, principle. Moderate lamentation is the right of the dead. And to me, as many interpretations as there are people of that. But partly that means to me is that Guy can actually help his brother along with right work.
Correct.
On himself, especially given that it's his brother. But then there's the second part, the same line, the same sentence. Moderate lamentation is the right of the dead, excessive grief the enemy to the living. And so when it becomes about I, and I guess over grieving, it actually ceases to help your brother in the right way. I guess that's all I had.
If it falls upon you to do so and you have any memory of my brother, send along a little thought. And I'll see you on Wednesday.